Thank you for tuning in. This is the Rice Crypto Show, and I'm your host, Rice. And today, I am joined by somebody who I've been trying to get on the show for quite some time, and that is Charlie Lee, who is the creator of Litecoin. Now, if this just happens to be your first time ever watching any of my videos, I do encourage you to explore my channel. Make sure you're subscribed, smash that like button, hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date with my videos as they come out. Also, be sure to follow me on LBRY, where I post exclusive content, and check out my Patreon channel where you can support me directly, and I will have links down below. So we're just going to go ahead and get right into today's interview. All right, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, joining me today on the show is the creator of Litecoin, Charlie Lee himself. Charlie, I appreciate you coming on. How you doing today?
Good. It's nice to be here, Rice.
Thank you so much, man. How is quarantine life treating you?
Pretty good. I mean, I'm stuck on this ship, so I can't go anywhere.
That's awesome. Well, that's a good place to be stuck, though, I would say. Now, if you don't mind, something that I'm just curious about, and I haven't had a chance to really check this out in like previous interviews or anything, and I did want to ask you this, but how did you ultimately get involved in cryptocurrency? And I know your brother mentioned something about 2011. Was that the year that you learned about it, and when and how did you get involved?
Yeah, I learned about it in about March, April of 2011. I read an article about Silk Road. This is like one of the first time Bitcoin kind of became a relatively big thing. It hit, what is it? It was Dig or some other news sites. And then I saw it. I actually open it in a new tab. I don't know if anyone does this. I'm sure some people do. Open stuff in tabs and just leave it there until I have time to get to it. So I have like a lot of like to do like tabs. So I opened that in a tab for like, I think it stayed there for like a week or two before I got a chance to read it. And when I read it, I got really interested in the Bitcoin that they were talking about. And I just basically fell down the rabbit hole then.
Yeah, and then you took your brother with you.
Yeah, it took some time to convince him actually, because
Yeah, well, he made it sound like it was kind of simple. He didn't elaborate, but yeah, it's cool that you got your brother into it.
He understood the kind of the value in Bitcoin and how it's like digital gold, but it took him a while to figure out how to kind of what's the best way to store it, because he's always afraid of losing it or getting hacked and something like that. And I guess that's why he started his new company Ballet to kind of work on this problem.
Well, and speaking of that, I'll go ahead and put links down below and above so people can check out that interview. I did it last week with Bobby. He's the co-founder, or he's the founder and CEO of Ballet. Yeah, that was a great interview, and I definitely encourage people to check that out. So I know your time's a little bit limited, so I wanted to kind of get right to it, man. I wanted to kind of basically talk more about stuff that's current. I'm really excited about the news that I heard when you had mentioned it was January of last year, I believe, when you announced adding privacy features to Litecoin and wanting to use MemberWimble. And then August, you guys recruited David Burkett, you and the Litecoin Foundation, I mean. And David Burkett is a Gren developer, and he's known for MemberWimble based privacy coins. So it's kind of cool that you guys brought him on. I know he's going to be he's posting monthly status updates and things like that, but anything you care to share regarding the MemberWimble situation and why you decided to add the privacy transactions to Litecoin?
Sure. I mean, early on, I realized that Bitcoin and Litecoin it's kind of like the perfect form of money. It's sound money, except for one thing, which is it was missing true fungibility. When I send Litecoin to you, for example, you can see like the change address, you can see the history, you can kind of almost figure out how much money I have, right? So if I, like, for example, bought 10 Bitcoins on the exchange and I sent you 0.0001 Bitcoin for whatever, for a small purchase, let's say, you can see that my address actually held 10. So like at least I have 10 Bitcoins worth of money, which is kind of which is bad, right? It makes Bitcoin, Litecoin not fungible. I'm sure a lot of you guys also do this, but you have to kind of pick and choose your inputs if you want to be careful about not exposing your finances to someone else, right? So which makes it really hard to use. So that's one thing I wanted to address with Litecoin, and I think Bitcoin eventually needs something like that to make it more fungible. So one thing that fungibility and privacy go hand in hand, and because without privacy, it makes it not fungible. So there are various different privacy solutions, and I think MemberWimble is one of the best ones that kind of addresses the trade-off between privacy and scalability.
Okay.
It's the coin or the protocol that scales the best with privacy. Coins like Zcash and Monero have great privacy, but they don't scale like at all, right? The block size just becomes huge, the transactions are huge. And for example, for Monero, you have to keep track of all the unspent outputs, right? You can't throw them away because they're used for privacy.
Right.
And that set just grows like exponentially, or not exponentially, but it just grows nonstop.
Okay.
So MemberWimble does privacy, not perfect, but it's good privacy and fungibility, and it scales really well. So that's the thing I wanted to explore with adding MemberWimble to Litecoin. And the way we're approaching it is to add it with a soft fork, and add it as an extension block. You can imagine it being like, it's kind of like a side chain, but it's attached to the main chain. And you move coins between the main Litecoin chain to the MemberWimble extension blocks. Once the coins are there, it follows the MemberWimble protocol where things are more private. And then if you want to come back to the main chain, you can pull the coins back. So being a soft fork, like exchanges don't have to support the MemberWimble side, and they don't even like know about it. And if the exchange doesn't support the MemberWimble side, you can always pull coins out of the MemberWimble extension block back to the main chain and send it to exchange before you sell it.
Okay. Yeah, that was something I was going to ask you is once it's implemented, was it going to be set as an option for people to basically do normal Litecoin transactions and then use the MemberWimble chain version?
Yeah, it's
and would it be easy? Like are you guys going to, because I know a lot of times a lot of this can be difficult. So I mean, are you guys going to try to make it as easy as possible?
Of course, we'll try to make it as easy as possible, but it's going to be, at least initially, it's going to be a learning curve. So it will be like wallets have to support it, right? So you have to support being able to move from the main chain to the MemberWimble side, and then support MemberWimble transactions. So obviously not all wallets will support it from the start. And even for Litecoin Core, for example, I would imagine the initial release would be command line only, right? And then we'll add more UI support to it over time.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but the good thing is it's going to be a soft fork where the whole ecosystem wouldn't need to care about it until they want to, right? So it's an opt-in for wallets, for exchanges, for service providers to support the MemberWimble side, and they can decide to just not care about it at all, right? I've actually talked to many exchanges about this to make sure that on the regulatory side they're kind of okay with such an upgrade, and I've only heard good things about that, where they think that it's a optional upgrade, and if they don't want to, they just won't touch it.
And I think it's smart too that you're doing the option and making it a soft fork, because I think that a lot of people were kind of questioning what was going to happen to like the legality and, as far as Litecoin in the future, if it was specifically utilizing the MemberWimble protocol as a constant, because obviously I think that privacy coins and anonymous coins are probably going to come under some attack with regulation that's coming, I would imagine. So now I'm sorry.
Let me talk about, I see it as kind of like cash, right? Cash is a lot more private. If you want to do any kind of like businesses with like banks and stuff, you can't deal with cash, right? You have to deposit to your account and do wire transfers and stuff. but you can always like pull the money out into cash and use money privately. And this is
Right.
kind of like the MemberWimble extension block where you can move your coins to MemberWimble. But if you ever want to sell it on an exchange that has KYC, you would have to kind of move it back onto the main chain, or when you deposit it, they'll see how many coins you have, which is obvious. But yeah, so I don't know. We'll see how people use it, right? I think it's a good it's good to have more fungibility for cryptocurrency. And
Yeah, I agree. I think the kind of the idea that your coins could be marked as tainted because they were used in illegal transactions or used in some purpose that the government didn't agree with, and you happen to be the person that owned that particular coin, you may be the one suffering the consequence of that. So I definitely think fungibility is important, and I really like the fact that you guys are adding it. Now, one of the things that I thought was really interesting about this, and correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't the MemberWimble protocol intended kind of as an upgrade or a side chain originally for Bitcoin?
I mean, the creator of it was anonymous, so he
Right.
didn't really specify like what his intentions were.
Okay.
But it was always going to be a really hard upgrade for Bitcoin because it changes things so much. It removes the ability to do scripts in Bitcoin, and in order to actually upgrade to MemberWimble, it would have to be a hard fork. So it's not an easy upgrade path for Bitcoin or Litecoin. I think the way we're doing it is kind of a good trade-off, doing it as an extension block.
Okay. That makes sense. And I appreciate you explaining it that way. And I've noticed a lot of times in the past, it seems like some of the code that would be proposed for Bitcoin for upgrades and improvements, a lot of those have been done to Litecoin a little bit beforehand, kind of almost testing it out with Litecoin. Do you see Bitcoin, since we kind of talked about it, do you see Bitcoin trying to add this feature, or is this now kind of like what Litecoin is doing to really kind of separate itself a little bit more and differentiate itself?
Yeah, I would love to see Bitcoin do something like that, or just improve privacy, right? I think it will. But this is definitely something that we're kind of venturing off on our own. Unlike things like SegWit and other things where it was implemented in Bitcoin before we actually activated on Litecoin, this is kind of totally separate thing. So good and bad, I guess. The good thing is we're doing something that's different, experimenting something different. I guess the bad thing is that by venturing further away from Bitcoin, it makes it harder for us to pull in all the new changes to Bitcoin, but I think we have a good way to do that.
Okay, that's cool. That makes a lot of sense as well. And I'm really excited to see the developments. I guess the last thing I'll ask you about that is, I'm trying to find where I had it written down, but I believe it's David Burkett has said he's thinking by early September or before September, the test net should be able to launch. Is that still looking like that's going to take place?
Yeah, the target is, I mean, this is not nothing set in stone, it's just trying to do, like, put something in place to reach for. The target is end of summer to try to have a test net in place. So it's going to still be a while before we actually launch this thing, right? It's a soft fork, so it might take some time for miners to signal it. But we're working hard on it. But we want to take it conservatively because this is something that is new, and also it's risky, right? There's risks with new things. So if you move coins over to the MemberWimble extension block, if something goes wrong, you might lose it, or there might be the real scary part is there could be hidden inflation, right? That's always true for privacy coins, where if you can't see with Bitcoin and Litecoin, you can count how many coins there are out there. There's
Right.
whatever 50-60 million Litecoins out there or today. I think that's more than that actually. That you can count them, right? So you can't, like, unlike fiat, you can't just create more money out of thin air. But with a privacy coin, if there's a bug in it, if there's a bug in the cryptography, and someone manages to take advantage of that and create coins out of thin air for themselves, no one would actually know, right?
Oh, wow.
The price would tank because he would just create coins and sell it, right, and get free money. But you actually wouldn't know what's going on, and that's a risk with privacy coins. So we just have to be careful, make sure the cryptography is good and there's no bug in the code. The good thing is we're sharing a lot of the code with Grin, which is already running live. So there's definitely advantage of doing that.
Yeah, because they've kind of tested out some of the bugs, which makes sense. And I'm not a coder. I've been learning a lot, just talking to people like you. But I can definitely tell that that this is definitely going to be like a crazy process of how this thing has to be implemented and all the different factors. And as far as what you said, as with the inflationary bug possibility and people not being able to know that there's an inflation issue, it's something I've never taken into consideration, and it's definitely something. It's interesting to think about.
It's an issue that's affected a few privacy coins actually, hidden inflation. Yeah, it's the good thing about this is the extension block, MemberWimble extension block for Litecoin would be kind of isolated by itself. If something happens to that, it won't infiltrate the main chain because you won't be able to withdraw more coins that was deposited into the extension block. So yes, if you put coins in the extension block, it's risky because there's this potential of a bug that could cause inflation. But this is a risk that one will be willing to take if they want to kind of experiment with this extension block with new privacy features. So we'll see. It might take some time before people get used to it and become comfortable with it.
Well, most of all, I just appreciate you being honest and transparent about it, because you don't want somebody just kind of jumping into this and not knowing that there's risks involved. So I appreciate you being transparent, because it's obviously important in our space, our decentralized space that we like to protect. It's something really cool though that I wanted to talk with you about, and I guess the news came out today, was the partnership with Atari and Litecoin Foundation. And what I've gathered is they're going to be adding Litecoin as a payment method for their upcoming Atari token, in addition to their Atari VCS game system and other future products. And I learned in your tweet today that the Atari 2600 was your first gaming console. It was actually my first gaming console as well. So that's pretty cool.
We're pretty old.
Yeah, we are a little bit.
I've been talking to you on Twitter. There are a lot of people, their first gaming consoles like the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, no, my parents actually, I didn't really play it because I didn't think it was worth even playing, was the Activision game. I don't know if you remember that.
Which one is that?
It had the Pong game with the two little dials that you would move the dials on it.
It's like a control like this and just go like.
Yeah, like it was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, but my first system was the Atari 2600 too. So what would you like to share aside from what I told about it, man? Because that's pretty exciting.
Well, I was pretty young at the time. It was my first experience with video games, right? And it was magical. Playing video games on a TV. I have really fond memories of the Atari 2600. I've even played I don't know if you know about the ET game. It's a pretty interesting story. So they made ET was a really popular movie at that time.
No, I remember ET.
Created a really, really bad game around that IP.
Okay.
But they made millions of cartridges because they thought the game will be really successful. But it's such a bad game that it flopped big time. And the story is that they actually have a dumpster where they dumped millions of cartridges of ET somewhere out of nowhere.
That's funny.
And that game actually, I think, caused caused the end of the golden era of video games at that time, because there's a huge crash after that.
Yeah, they put all that money into promoting this thing that they thought was going to be bringing them all this profit, and instead it tanked their business.
Yeah, I played that game on the Atari, and it was one of the dumbest games ever. I just didn't get what the point was.
So with that, do you know about the VCS game system? I think you're going to be able to play all those old games on it as well.
Yeah, it's kind of, I don't know too much about it, but the idea is that you'll be able to play the old Atari games and new games, and also ability for people to create their own games and upload it and share
Yeah, I
with
saw
fans.
that. It's supposed to be like a gaming console, like mixed with kind of a PC, kind of an upgrade to what we're used to now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we'll see. I'm excited about it. Also excited that people will be able to buy it with Litecoin and even get a small discount on it.
I read that too.
So
I was going to mention that. Yeah, they're offering a discount if you use Litecoin.
yeah, it's not available yet. We'll have, once everything is ready, we'll have it on the Litecoin Foundation store, and Atari will have it on their store, and you can pay with Litecoin and also Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Cool. Now, are you still currently, do you game at all like currently?
I do. I recently got a VR headset. VR gaming is pretty cool. Also, kind of got into Stadia. You know, Google launched their cloud gaming platform. I think that's pretty cool to be able to, because I use a Mac. I've never had a PC, or since like 2000, I haven't had a PC that's powerful enough to play games on.
Okay.
So to be able to play cloud stream games is just pretty cool.
That's cool. Are there any like type of blockchain games that you play?
No, I mean there are a few like blockchain games, but nothing big yet.
Okay.
Is there anything on your radar that's interesting?
I have a very addictive personality. So when I was younger and I would play games, I would play games a lot. And so I've avoided playing games or having newer game consoles so that I wouldn't take my time away from playing games all the time. But I've been trying to explore, and a friend of mine who, you know, Ken Bozak, he's supposed to be teaching me about Splinterlands. I used to play Magic the Gathering, and it's a card game that exists on the Steam blockchain right now. And I've heard of a couple other I want to check out, but it's something I got to be careful with. So I want to explore it so I can educate people about them, but I don't want to sit there and spend a lot of my time playing games because I don't have enough time to do what I'm doing already.
Speaking of Magic the Gathering is what Mt. Gox came.
Yeah.
Right. Magic the Gathering online exchange.
It's crazy. Yeah, Magic the Gathering online exchange.
Card exchange site that turned into a Bitcoin exchange site.
It's cool. And then now, you know, like 11 years later, 10 years later, you've got blockchain based games that are using trading cards. So it's pretty cool how everything's kind of come full circle in that way. Is there any other news or any other developments that you want to highlight or share that's been happening with Litecoin recently, aside from Atari, or anything that you haven't shared publicly that you want to?
Let's see. I mean, Litecoin's doing well. A lot of people like Litecoin is kind of boring, right? It kind of just works, right? The thing is, people talk about Bitcoin having 99% uptime since its inception, but Litecoin has 100% uptime since its inception. It just has not failed, right? It just, ever since I launched it in 2011, it just works, right? It still has cheap fees, and still transactions happen on average every 2.5 minutes. So it's fast and cheap, and it just works. So people actually use it as money, which is what they're supposed to be doing, right? But obviously a lot of people are in this space for speculation reasons. So they invest in the coin, and the price hasn't been doing well, just like all the other coins. So everyone's kind of not happy about it, but it's a long-term game from my point of view. So.
Yeah, I've been hearing the rumblings, and that kind of it kind of segues into a question I did want to ask you and touch with is talking about Jared Tate, the creator of Digibyte, because I know he just recently he didn't leave Digibyte, but he's decided to kind of step away for a little bit, take a break from social media. And some of the things that he said in a couple of his tweets were mentioning that the fundamentals of what he's built being co-opted and eroded by greed, that the original values of this industry are gone. Greed is the fundamental driving force in crypto and people's actions and their lives. So, with what you said, I mean, have you seen that much of a change in the space? And with that being said, have you ever with all the stuff going on, like thought about kind of stepping away from Litecoin at all?
Let me address your first point. So um, I think humans are in general greedy by nature. So, and that there's nothing wrong with that, right? So I think it's kind of par for the course for this to be in this space. Um, the only thing I've seen that's changed over the years is that there are a lot more scammers, right? People, because there's so much money involved, people want to be able to make money without doing much work. So there's a lot of scammers in this space, and there's more and more. But in terms of greed, I think one of the good things about Bitcoin is Satoshi designed it to work with greed, right? The reason why mining and then Bitcoin works is because miners are greedy or selfish by nature. All they care about is making money, and because of that, they're not throwing money away to attack the coin. They're just, if they make money, the coin is secure and everything just works. So I think we just have to kind of work with that, right? Work with the greed that is kind of inherent in people.
Right.
So I don't see anything kind of wrong with that, and I think Jared might be a little bit burnt out. I know he's had a lot of like spats with exchanges not listing Digibyte.
Well, he had
Yeah.
Digibyte removed from. It was taken off of Poloniex after him and
After
Justin
he got
Sun.
into a
Little,
kind of a fight way. Right?
yeah.
Was it Justin Sun or was it the
I
previous
thought
owner of
I thought it
Poloniex?
was Justin Sun, but there's so much that happens in this space. It's hard to keep up
Yeah.
with. But something happened, and I know that they were delisted from Poloniex, and yeah, I mean, so
Yeah.
yeah,
I
I
mean,
kind of get your point of view.
that's one thing I definitely like keep away from. It's not, you don't like fight with exchanges and do something that hurts your coin. Yeah, but I think it's kind of, there's a lot of drama involved, and kind of for me, I kind of want to stay away from drama as much as possible these days.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And I do want to clarify that I'm not saying anything negative about Jared. Did you buy it or anything? I found the situation to be interesting, and being that you're a creator of a coin and kind of all the grumblings of people talking about nothing's been happening with the price, nothing's been happening with Litecoin, and all the different things that people just want to kind of gossip about. And I just want to kind of get your feelings on that. And kind of with that being said, the last thing I wanted to ask you is,
Let me
okay.
cover your second question.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No worries about potentially me stepping away. I think this is definitely the end goal. In the end, for a coin to be truly decentralized and a coin of the people, there shouldn't be someone like a central figure that is dictating how things go. I think if eventually when I step away, Litecoin will be more decentralized. But in the meantime, it's a trade-off, right? I think it's more, it's kind of like a benevolent dictator versus a democracy. If the benevolent dictator kind of system is very efficient, a lot more efficient than democracy. But obviously there's a chance of the dictator becoming not benevolent, or what happens when he dies and someone else takes over. His son might be evil, right?
Right.
So that's always a balance, but it's a good thing for Litecoin, at least in this early stage, with me leading it and kind of pointing it in the right direction. But eventually I see myself kind of stepping away from it and letting it flourish by itself.
Okay. That's cool. That makes sense. And that still kind of segues into this last question, which would be, have you ever considered working on any different projects outside of Litecoin? Kind of something similar to like Dan Larimer, because he's done multiple different projects. And I kind of look at you guys as being in the same kind of field. You guys are both creators, coders, and not your average coder, I would say. So yeah, I mean, have you thought about that?
No, likely not. When I left Coinbase in 2017, I decided to focus on Litecoin, and I knew that this is kind of going to be the thing for a long time. And if I ever stop doing it, it would be because I'm just not doing anything. I don't think I'm gonna like stop doing Litecoin and work on something else or even another coin. That would be silly.
Right.
Yeah. So this is kind of like my full-time thing right now. And yeah, and when the time comes, I'll probably just retire.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, again, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this interview, and I would definitely like to do another one in the future. But before we do wrap things up, was there anything I didn't talk about that you wanted to cover, or any final thoughts that you want to leave people with?
Um, I would say people should not look at the price so much, and just kind of, if you're in this space, invest your money and try to not to look at it for a few years. And in the long run, things will do well. But if you're like constantly daily looking at the price, it's very stressful, and it's just not good for the mind.
No, it's not. It's not. When I first got involved in crypto, I went through that phase where I was constantly looking at the price, and I really couldn't put my phone down, or I couldn't stay off the computer. And yeah, I mean, even now with creating content and being so involved in a space, I still have to step away, put my phone down, get away from the computer, because it's really important to be able to give yourself some time. And
Yeah.
I mean, but like you said, there's nothing wrong with trying to make profit in the game. It's just, don't make that all about what you're doing. Or if it is, then just, you got to go along with how the game rolls, and just quit bitching and complaining about things that you don't like. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I definitely like what you guys have created. When I first got involved in crypto, Litecoin was the second cryptocurrency that I bought after Bitcoin. And I became a friend of yours, or a fan of yours. I got to meet you for the first time at the first World Crypto Con, and seen each other a couple of times since then. You've always been a really cool dude. So again, man, I really appreciate your time, and I'll tag you. I will have this video, the edited version of this video will be out tomorrow. So I'll tag you appropriately, as well as the Litecoin Foundation.
Sure. And nice t-shirt you have there.
Yeah, no, you, funny story, in Vegas, you told me that I looked like your chicken with my hair.
Oh yeah.
That first picture. I'll include the pictures that we did, but yeah, I thought that was kind of funny. You called me your little chicken. So but yeah, dude, again, I really appreciate your time, and I'll be in touch.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you again. And that brings a conclusion to my interview with Charlie Lee. And I do hope you found value in today's video. And as I mentioned earlier, if this just happens to be your first time ever checking out any of my videos, be sure to explore my channel. And make sure you subscribe, smash that like button, hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date with my videos as they come out. Follow me on LBRY, where I post exclusive content. Check out my Patreon channel, where you can support me directly. And as always, I encourage you to be the change by practicing change.